So obviously when the NBA potentially is saying that there's no association with it, we understand that they want their star players out. I also want my star players out and playing because I'm a fan and I don't want them to get injured.
Yeah, I mean, we all want our star players out, but if they do get injured, you want to know why so they can get on the court, or back on the court, I should say, as quickly as possible. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Yasmin Vasugan. So you just heard it, right? We're talking about the NBA and injuries, specifically one injury, and it is an Achilles rupture. Well, I spoke to an orthopedic surgeon that you just heard at the top of the show, who's going to walk us through potentially what is happening there and how to get them back on the court faster. The NBA, though, is not loving the results from this orthopedic surgeon. Also, SpaceX stock, it's been pretty volatile over the last few weeks or so. We just got an earnings report out earlier in the week. Stock market's doing pretty well. There's a major test, though, now for this SpaceX stock. That's ahead, too. Up first, though. So firefighters in Spokane, Washington, have been working to contain 3 fires this week, which have burned over 8,000 acres, forcing tens of thousands of people to leave their homes and destroying hundreds of buildings. Now, the man accused of starting one of those fires, Aaron Farinacci, is set to be arraigned in court today. Earlier this week, he was charged with first-degree arson. So for more on this, I want to bring in NBC News national correspondent Morgan Chesky, who has been on the ground for us for a few days now. Morgan, it's good to have you. I mentioned Aaron Farinacci, the man who was arrested for allegedly starting these fires, one of the 3 Spokane fires. How are they able to find him so quickly and charge him?
Yeah, they gave a lot of credit to witnesses that saw Farinacci acting suspiciously in a wooded area. And we heard from this gentleman who says that his daughter noticed the man kind of bending near a fence line, kind of crouching down. And shortly thereafter, they saw smoke coming from the very place that Farinacci had been standing. They had a chance to speak to authorities, gave them a description of this individual, and it wasn't but a short time later that they were able to detain him. And that was when they found that he had that butane lighter and box of waterproof matches on him. They didn't bring him into official custody until the following day, but that was the evidence that they built upon to bring that first-degree arson charge against him.
What more do we know about him?
We know that in 2010, he pleaded guilty to manslaughter for killing his own father in the state of Arizona. We know that initially this began as an argument between the 2 men over the dishes inside the home. He did serve prison time for that, and he was released about 6 years ago. So that is just a part of the history that's really being dug into as more comes to light ahead of his arraignment that's expected later today, where we do anticipate he will be entering a formal plea.
So let's talk about the fires, because you've been there for a few days now. I know that hundreds of firefighters from around 24 states or so have been working to contain these fires. What have you been seeing? Like, how bad is it, Morgan?
I think, I haven't seen a fire tear through an area like this since we reported from, Altadena and the Palisades, when you see entire neighborhoods that have been leveled and the only things left behind are the foundations and the chimneys and the skeletons of cars. The way this fire moved on Saturday, when I've spoken to witnesses, they say that the wind was so powerful that it was just pouring gasoline on the flames, pushing them up hillsides and from one house to another. It jumped one of the rivers in town and it continued taking off. Saturday was hell here, is a lot of how people have described it. And when you see the damage and the devastation, particularly from the old Trails fire, that's the one that Farinacci is accused of starting. It is stunning to see just how much burned in such a short amount of time. And I do want to give an incredible amount of credit to the first responders, who essentially had 2 to 3 hours to evacuate upwards of 30 to 40 to even 50,000 people, and no reports of any deaths, no reports of any injuries, because everyone was able to make it out in time.
How are folks coping with having lost?
You hear one story only to hear the next, and that breaks your heart even more so. We met a couple, Ken and Lisa Anderson, on a Monday. They had lost their home of 27 years. And they thought that they would be fine until they weren't, and they were able to make it to safety. And then they saw their neighborhood start to burn, and Ken had made his way back down on Monday to see that nothing was salvageable. Everything had been burned. And then the very next day, we met another family, and the Sabo family. And in speaking to them, we found out that the mother and wife, Lindsay Sabo, was the daughter of Ken and Lisa. And she had actually evacuated her home with her 2 children and husband and went to her parents' home thinking that they would be okay there. And then everyone had to evacuate together.
Wow.
And so you have 2 generations that are now having to start from scratch.
And it's not just Spokane. Like, I mean, if you take a look at the map of fires out west, they are everywhere. There are dozens of fires. Why is it so intense right now? Do we know?
I mean, it's too many to keep track of, or for one person to keep track of, it feels like. And I posed that very question to one of the fire officials at the command center yesterday. I said, listen, we all know that we're kind of in a wildfire season now, that actually exists. It's a thing. But what's so striking to you? And he says, just the widespread nature of the heat and the multiple droughts that are ongoing in many areas. And so you kind of have this perfect recipe that's not just in one place anymore, but across an entire region, multiple states, so that when one fire does take off, it can burn unabated for quite some time before crews are able to get it under control. And the videos coming out of Utah and of Colorado and even California over the past just several days are stunning in and of themselves. And so it certainly puts it in perspective for you when you look how hard crews are working here and then realize that similar firefights are happening across the western United States.
What about the triple-digit temps? Because I know it cooled down where you are for a little bit, but now it's going to hit potentially triple digits once again. Like, how worried are folks?
People are incredibly worried. There's this uneasiness that hangs heavy here because even if people's homes have survived, they haven't been able to get back to them just yet out of fears of a potential reignition or another fire spreading. National Weather Service put out that warning saying we could be hitting 100 today and tomorrow, and that Saturday could bring some gusty winds. I mean, you combine those 2 factors and you're right back where you were last Saturday when these fires began. And so there is a very present feeling of people being in this kind of uneasy purgatory right now, even though these 3 major fires that make up the Spokane complex have been contained by fire line. They know how quickly flames can take off again.
Morgan Chesky, thank you.
Always a pleasure, yes. Thanks.
So Wall Street's been having a pretty good week, right? The Dow hit record highs 3 days in a row. The S&P just hit one last night. But one stock has been on a bit of a roller coaster ride, and that is SpaceX. The company only went public in June with a historic IPO, but since then, Elon Musk's space and AI company, it's been struggling. And today, it's facing another major test. Some early investors and SpaceX employees are going to be released from their first stock lockup, which means they're finally going to be able to sell their shares. So here to talk about it is NBC News business reporter Allie Canal. Hi, Allie.
Hey, yes.
So you got more than 900 million SpaceX shares that are being quote unquote unlocked today, right? Meaning people can actually buy and sell their stock. Explain for us what is going to happen for buyers and sellers.
Yeah, so this is the first and largest of the IPO lockup expirations. So there's actually 9 in total, which is pretty unusual. Typically before a company goes public, those insiders, those early investors, those employees, they agree to this lockup period where they cannot sell their shares. Usually that's around 180 days, and they get in at a pretty low purchase price. So for many of those insiders, they have incentives to sell to kind of increase that liquidity with themselves. Now, what's interesting, what's happening right now today is...
But it also means people on the outside can now buy.
Yes, exactly. And there's around a billion more shares now available on the market. What we're seeing in early trading today is there's actually some demand. The stock is up pretty significantly, especially considering all of the volatility that we've seen since this company went public. The stock sold off double digits after its earnings. So there has been a struggle, but it seems like today there's a bit of a bounce back here.
Okay, so in talking about growth for a second, because Tuesday they released their first earnings report since they actually went public, SpaceX that is, and it is showing some growth. But why has then the stock been so volatile since they went public?
Yeah, super interesting earnings report because the fundamentals were strong. Revenue beat expectations. The company reported a narrower than expected loss. Elon Musk said that by 2030, $1 trillion in revenue will be reached versus a previous forecast of 2031. But all of that wasn't enough to calm investors' fears around spending because capital expenditures, that was up sixfold to $18.4 billion. The majority of that focused in AI.
Okay.
Yeah, just spending aggressively.
SpaceX spending in AI.
SpaceX spending in AI. And this is a story we've seen across the tech space. A lot of investors are worried on the payoff for AI.
Right, because it's not showing any earnings,
Exactly. Right? When are we going to see the profits? When are we going to see the return on some of those investments? And even though right now the story seems to be okay for SpaceX when you look at it operationally from these initial numbers, the longer term payout is going to take some time, and it clearly is so significant. So that is what spooked investors this week. They're just spending so aggressively on AI, and we just don't know when we're going to see some of those returns.
Do we see a lot of like kind of Main Street investors getting into the SpaceX game, wanting to buy up some of these stocks? Do we know yet?
Yeah, what's really interesting is that we have some data from Vanda Research, and they said that retail investors have been net buyers every single day since the IPO, and they view SpaceX
retail
as
investors are normal.
Retail investors,
or like
every
me and
day,
you.
like me and you.
Okay.
Not the institutions. And that shows us that these retail investors, they view SpaceX as a longer term story, a transformational story, and they're willing to buy in now for eventually, hopefully, to get a profit down the line. Now, some of that enthusiasm has faded a little bit. They're not buying as aggressively as they were when the company first debuted, but there hasn't been a day where they've been net sellers, and that sticks out to me. I think one of the biggest concerns around SpaceX is that it could be in the middle of an identity crisis, and that's some of the concerns I've seen on Wall Street, because the original IPO story was focused on launch, focused on space. But today, the investment thesis is increasingly including AI, the Starlink, internet service, wireless ambitions, a possible tie-up with Tesla. What is SpaceX? What does it stand for? What is the future? Because some of the critics on Wall Street say investors are really underwriting multiple expensive businesses with a to-be-determined payoff, and we just don't know when.
Is it pretty typical for a company that goes public to have some stock volatility the way in which SpaceX has over the last few weeks, and then also those show some growth in the first earnings report?
Yeah, very typical.
Oh, okay.
We usually do see these significant large drawdowns. Now, relative to the averages in these first few weeks, first month of trading or so, SpaceX has been worse off. We'll see by the end of the first year of trading how they will do. But we usually see a lot of this volatility.
Give us a sense of Wall Street right now, because obviously we've been talking about SpaceX and that's seen some volatility. But the market itself, the Dow, the S&P, they've had these kind of big highs over this last few days or so, linked to artificial intelligence, linked to AI, right? I mean, it seems like AI is just the boom across the board.
It has, and we have stocks trading at record highs. Now, we're in the thick of earnings season, and historically, earnings are a big driver of stock market gains. And this week, we heard from Caterpillar, for example, a big manufacturing equipment giant, and they said the build-out of AI data centers is fueling demand for its equipment. Caterpillar is a major Dow component, which is one of the reasons why we saw the Dow hit a record high.
Right.
Then you
so
hear
it's kind of a trickle-down
effect. And then you hear from a company like Palantir, a defense contractor, very seeped in the AI story. They reported blowout earnings. Their stock jumped 30%.
Wow.
And then that had a ripple effect through the chip stocks. And that's one of the reasons why the S&P 500 hit a record high. So even though AI can cause a lot of anxiety among investors, and clearly that was the case with SpaceX, if you are showing improvements in AI, in spending trends, investors will reward you for AI. So it's that double-edged sword right now happening in markets.
That's interesting, though, that like AI is kind of trickling down to hitting like tangible kind of working companies like Caterpillar, for instance, which like has like the big excavators and stuff building those AI data centers, basically, right? That's kind of how it's correlated with one another.
Yeah, and the AI story has been described in different phases. Initially, it was all about NVIDIA, those processors, the chips. Then the next phase was the software companies that would benefit. And now we are seeing
buildings,
the building of it all. So this is a story that we're very early innings in, and that will continue. And that's why there is a lot of bullishness still around SpaceX, despite the volatility. Wall Street is optimistic that they have a lot of touch points in AI and that they could be a big player in this space.
Why should these retail investors, like regular investors, you and I, people that are listening, why do they care? Why should they care?
I think you need to believe in the AI story. I think if you've been following the stock market over the past several years, we're in the midst of a bull market, and AI has been a major theme of that. So if you think that SpaceX can be a player in this space, can build data centers in space, if you think it is a company that will get there, that will see those profits, then it's worth investing in. But you also want to be skeptical. I mean, this is the first earnings report that we've seen from this company, the first time we're viewing these financials.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take a little bit more time. I would want to see more earnings reports, more numbers from this company. Like I said, usually when a company IPOs, it's very volatile that first year. Where are we this time next year? And how much has the company improved? And what are we seeing financially to give me the confidence as an investor, as someone that's putting my money into this company, that I will see a return eventually? And also, what is your time horizon? If you're someone that's younger and you can wait 10, 20 years for this company to deliver profits, maybe that's a risk that's worth taking. But if you're older and you're retiring soon,
getting
you might
into
not
a
have that
volatile
time.
stock is not necessarily the smartest thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Allie Canal, thank you.
Thank you.
So for basketball players in the NBA, rupturing your Achilles, that is the tendon above your heel, it usually means the end of their season, and in some cases, the end of a career. And there has been this really big push to figure out how to prevent Achilles tears. So in a new study published in the Orthopedic Journal of Sports Medicine, researchers found that players who got injured had logged more minutes in the games leading up to their injuries. But the NBA is disputing that there's any correlation between the injuries and the time on the court. So I spoke to Dr. Nirav Pandya. He is a co-author on the study and a professor and pediatric orthopedic surgeon at the University of California, San Francisco. Hi, Dr. Pandya.
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. It's great to have you. So why did you decide to look into this issue in the first place? Like, what was the impetus of this study?
So first of all, I'm a big NBA fan, and seeing star players go down and get injured was problematic. And a lot of this spurred from that season 2 years ago where there were 7 NBA players who tore their Achilles, which was the highest number of Achilles tears in a single season. And it wasn't just the fact that it was the number, it was also very young players, Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, younger players who typically weren't tearing their Achilles. So that really raised a lot of interest for me to say, hey, what exactly is causing this? Why are these players getting injured? And is there some metric that we could track that was consistent across these players that we could hopefully then tell the teams and potentially prevent this injury from happening?
Why are ball players so susceptible to Achilles ruptures?
I think a lot of it has to do with the nature of the sport. It's a very ballistic sport now compared to even 20, 30 years ago. You're constantly moving, you're constantly jumping, you're placing a lot of stress on that, you're going at high speed. And even the manner in which these players, some of the more recent players, have torn in terms of the way they're shooting three-pointers has also been shown to potentially be a risk factor in terms of the step-back maneuver. So if you're going to choose a sport where it's really high risk for an Achilles, it's basketball. You're using that Achilles to jump and run, and as the game gets more explosive, there's more strain on this particular part of the body.
So you guys actually looked at 19 Achilles tendon ruptures that happened over a decade or so between the 2014-2015 season and the 2024-2025 season. And you found that these players actually just logged a small increase in playing times in the games leading up to their injuries. So why did you think that was so significant, that they logged more time on the court leading up to this injury?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the traditional narrative had always been that it's about longitudinal load over the course of a season. So if you play tons of minutes and your body's going to break down a game 83, game 84, or perhaps it had to do with other factors, what position you play, how old you are. But then when we saw the fact that this was really about a change in what your usual workload is and the intensity of it, it started to make more sense that it's more about balance and making sure you're consistent than it is necessarily about that longitudinal load. And even though it's only 2 minutes, which was the finding in our study, that 2 minutes over the course of 10 to 15 games in a very explosive sport is somehow placing these athletes at risk for having that Achilles injury.
So what you're saying is if you're consistently playing, for instance, like 35 minutes in a game, 35 minutes in a game, 35 minutes in a game, then you should be okay because your body is used to that consistency and that regularity of playing that time period on the court. But if you are consistently ticking up that time period on the court, then you are more vulnerable to this type of injury.
Exactly, right. And I think a lot of that has to do with professional athletes are so regimented. There's all this tracking, all this data we're collecting. And the one thing we know is that consistency in terms of sleep and travel and training is really important. And you do all this and suddenly you get to a period of time where you're changing that consistency over a period of 10 to 15 games. And at least in our study, obviously we don't have a control group and there's some limitations in our study, definitely did show that that was a consistent pattern in these players who tore their Achilles for that 10 to 15 games before it happened.
The NBA, by the way, has disputed your findings, taking issue with your methodology. They say they've looked at data from the 2012 and 2013 season to the present day. They consulted with experts, and according to their own internal research, they didn't find a relationship between player minutes and injuries. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, number one, I appreciate that they're looking at the research, which shows that they're definitely, interested in the topic. I know the statement that came out was very generalized. What were they looking at in terms of their data? Were they looking at minutes over the course of a season? Were they looking at minutes over a certain period of time? So I would be interested to know kind of what their data was and what they were looking at, because it seemed a little bit more vague. And then number two, we totally acknowledge the limitations of our methodology. In our paper, we've got 3 paragraphs of limitations. And really for us, this is almost like we observed something. It's a stepping off point for a larger study. And absolutely, we may very well find out that there are tons of other players who have, increased the minutes over 10 to 15 games and they're not getting injured. But I think this is something worth looking because we looked at a lot of other factors and we didn't see an association. So this can be one piece that may warrant a little bit more investigation. And I have no vested interest in NBA players playing. I'm not a business. So obviously when the NBA potentially is saying that there's no association with it, we understand that they want their star players out. I also want my star players out and playing because I'm a fan and I don't want them to get injured. So we're both looking at the same thing. It's just a matter of, are there factors there that we can modify? And I'm not saying that players shouldn't play. Maybe they should be playing more consistent minutes, not necessarily sitting out of games, which can potentially benefit the NBA from a business standpoint and potentially prevent these Achilles injuries from happening. It's about maintaining that balance and consistency as opposed to potentially going in the completely opposite load management way where people don't play for 3 to 4 days and then play a game. Perhaps that's a higher injury risk than simply just playing a large number of minutes throughout the season.
Have you had any players reach out to you since this study was published?
Not yet. Clearly, the NBA seems to be looking at the study, and I'm sure there have been people who've been reading about it. But no one's reached out personally yet. Are
you worried you're not going to lose your Susan tickets because you published a study and the NBA is not into it?
I was joking.
You did start by saying you're an NBA fan.
I'm going to show up to Chase Center to see the Warriors, and I will not be allowed in. Yes.
Yeah, that's the guy who's telling us about our Achilles tears. Dr. Nirav Pandya, thank you.
Thank you so much.
That is going to do it for us at Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Yasmin Vasugan. We'll be back tomorrow with whatever the day may bring. And if you like what you saw and you heard, press the subscribe button. We'll see you tomorrow.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.